So thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to this talk. I hope you enjoy it, and please feel free to ask a lot of questions at the end. So as Mary Elizabeth said, the title of my talk is The Regenerative Power of Native American Beliefs. So when I was 10 and my brother was 7, we almost got beat up by a bunch of high school kids. We lived in a house that was right adjacent to this creek in the Central Coast, California, where I grew up. So we'd go down there all the time and play in the woods. And one day we were climbing up this, kind of like cliff thing on one of the banks. And some high school kids started like yelling stuff at us, and we started yelling at them and throwing rocks at them. Well, they came running down and started chasing us, right? And of course, these are big kids. And so we were scared, especially my brother's 7. So we start running. We're jumping through the woods and all that kind of stuff. And down in this creek, they had these big bushes that were, about this high, about 5 feet tall. The cool thing about them was that they were hollow on the inside. Now, of course, we knew this. So we dove into one of these bushes a few seconds before these kids come running by. But they come streaking by, and we're like in there quiet. And they go right by, and we listen to them running through the woods. And after we thought it was safe, we peek out of the bush, no kids around, and we run home really fast, and we were safe, and we were real proud of ourselves that we had thwarted the attack of these menacing high schoolers. But the reason I tell this story is because it is an example of a primary indigenous value or indigenous belief, which is what we call place. So what place is, in simple terms, it's the connections, relationships between people and all people in a given place, both human people and non-human people. Non-human people would be things like trees and deer and squirrels and that sort of thing, and the geographic features of the place as well. And really the idea with place is that the members or residents or denizens of a particular geographic locale are all connected to each other through, both belonging to, contributing to, and utilizing the resources of a given place. Indigenous peoples have all kinds of different ways of describing this, but they all basically connect back to deep interlocking and interconnected systems of relationships in a given locale. And as I said, each given locale is going to have its own given sort of people. And again, people is a quintessential, fundamental indigenous conception. And really what it differs it from Western conceptions of people, other than the fact that people can include non-human people, both alive and non-living, is again that the people are unique to the place. And more precisely, each group of people in a particular place is unique because the place is unique. So the place shapes the people, and the people shape the place in ways that produce something specific to every given locale. The fact that every given locale or every given place has a different and unique groups of people necessitates that those groups of people know how to connect to each other, and they do this through ritual kinship. Ritual kinship, again, is a fundamental indigenous belief and indigenous practice. It's basically the idea of using ceremony or some sort of repetitive practice to make non-related individuals related. So non-blood related individuals related, or two unrelated groups of people related through, again, the ritual of some sort of event. We have this in our own culture. You can think of a wedding, for example, as ritual kinship. The importance of ritual kinship is connected to the notion of reciprocity, and this is the idea of meeting your kin's needs, right, to the best degree that you can. So whenever you're in a relationship with someone, the idea is to give to them what it is they need, take from them what it is they can give to you in terms of meeting your needs, and this doesn't need to be equal. It is predicated on the degree to which you can give and the degree to which you need. So you might be in connection with someone or in relationship with someone all your life, and it be unequal in the terms of what you give. So if I give him $20, he might down the road give me 5. He's not obligated to give me 20. The idea is is creating a connection with someone or multiple someones that we can utilize to meet whatever our needs happen to be. When you're able to create a healthy relationship with either between individuals or between groups, you create what is called balance. In its most simple form, balance is trying to find the right equilibrium between two opposed forces, hot or cold, good or bad, war and peace. But really, on a deeper and much more important level, balance refers to the health that is created when you maintain and tend proper relationships. So again, the ongoing effort to be connected with a group or with a person in ways that meets their needs and in ways that meets your needs creates health, or simply put, balance. When you have a place in which there are healthy relationships or balanced relationships, you get power. So power has all kinds of different definitions and uses. At the very basic level, it's the animating life force that we all have, that all people have. It is also linked to the particular capabilities or abilities of a particular person or of a particular group, right? The Patriots' ability to consistently win Super Bowls is their power. And on another level, power simply refers to the uniqueness of a given place. Again, you can think of this like going to some place that you really love. The place's ability to relax you, to entice you, whatever it happens to be, is that place's power. And again, that power comes from the uniqueness of the people and the relationships that exist in that given place. So when taken together, what this creates for indigenous peoples, there are others. But the point is that they exist in this kind of spherical way, where you cannot, touch one without touching the other, or all of them in reality. And at base, the relational perception of this kind of thinking is predicated again on the ways in which all of these are intimately connected to each other. So I bring this up, and I spent all this time discussing this, because the main idea I want to convey today is that this worldview and the values that support it hold a lot of potential to address the current crises that our civilization faces. And of course, you understand, that we are in a particularly unique period in world history, in that we are looking at all kinds of interlocking and interdependent crises, economic crises, marked by massive inequality, social crises, mass shootings, political crises, intense partisanship, environmental crises, climate change, ecocide, whatever you want to call it. And these are all connected together. And of course, we also feel these in really deep and personal ways, even if we attempt to even if you only take so much, or you don't want to think about them at a particular time. We've all had to deal with the noise of political tribalism. Most of us probably have dealt at some point in our life with some sort of economic insecurity. There's a newly coined psychological term, eco-anxiety, referring to the anxiety and depression that can occur from loss of habitat, loss of species, climate change, etc. And then of course, we all have family or friends who experience anxiety and depression. So being a historian, one of the things that is, one of the things that we bring to the table is a long view of social, economic, political, and cultural processes. And simplifying, looking at the causes of these current crises and putting them in a simple way. These are two of the most important causes of these crises. One is a misunderstanding of the importance and use of material consumption, and the other is an imbalance in the pursuit of self-interest. So now, neither of these ideas, whether it be consumption, material consumption, or pursuit of self-interest, are bad in and of themselves, obviously. It's simply that they tend to be looked at, mostly uncritically, mostly unchallenged in our society. And again, that can lead to an imbalance. So why and how can indigenous values address these crises, and particularly those two underlying issues? And my basic argument is that what they tend to do, what these indigenous values tend to do when enacted, is that they tend to produce contentment, they tend to produce purpose by involving everyone into the creation and recreation of life. So if you think of what can happen when people or a culture has an imbalance in material consumption, for instance, is that you can get happiness through material consumption, right? You eat a Snickers bar and it's really yummy. You buy a new car and it's awesome, right? But that doesn't tend to produce long-standing contentment. But yet we can be told that it does, and we can be told that success is connected or predicated on those sorts of labels or characteristics of our own of life, right? And then if you think of what happens with a overvaluation on the pursuit of self-interest, again, in and of itself is good, right? But if you are only doing something, or if a culture is only focused on the pursuit of self-interest, or uses the pursuit of self-interest as its main, again, marker of success or its main objective, what this can ultimately lead to is a lack of purpose for a lot of people, especially if you attain what you strive for. So again, those are not bad in and of themselves. But if we look at these values that I've talked about at the start of this talk, they can produce some of the antidotes to the issues I just mentioned. So for example, the involvement in terms of producing happiness on a long-term basis, contentment on a long-term basis, and creating purpose on a long-term basis. One of the best ways of doing that is obviously through giving, through connecting, through doing so in ways that produce and recreate life. So if you are part, or if we are part of a process of giving, a process of cultivating contentment, process of cultivating purpose, and through such cultivation, creating and regenerating life in its vibrancy and in its most healthy form, that can give us all a lot of purpose. And so again, understanding that, if you marry those to what is happening into our world today, they go a long way to addressing, especially on a personal level, some of these interlocking crises that I talked about before. So, in the inaction of indigenous values, you get, for instance, regeneration of rather than depletion of resources. You get a focus on reciprocity rather than only on self-interest. You get the ability to work toward the common good rather than the good of atomized individuals. And again, all of this has a strong potential to create connection, and intimate connection that gives purpose and meaning beyond and in addition to again, transient happiness or goal-oriented self-interest. So, just quickly to end. What can we then do? How do you actually do this? So if you think of these problems that I've just laid out, these are global in scale. They're massive. They have massive financial and other resources behind them, and it can feel as if on the individual basis there's nothing that we can do. But here again, I want to return back to place. So the basic idea is that addressing some of these issues, at least in my opinion, has to begin at the grassroots level. It's at the grassroots level where we don't need to worry so much about, international global interests, corporate interests, political processes, what have you. If we focus on the local, we have a lot more sovereignty. We have a lot more power to make changes in our own lives. So again, what does it mean? It means doing things like cultivating reciprocal and regenerative relationships in your own place, right? Where you live. Figuring out what is it that I can give in my connections with my friends? What is it that I can give in connections to my church or anything else, right? The basic idea is using yourself as a way to support, again, your family, your work, your where you work, your coworkers, your home, your town, tending a garden, right? Deeply reciprocal, deeply regenerative. Again, tending to care for the woods or anything else, right? Not polluting water in the woods, ponds, streams, etc. So again, my point is that while we are in our position in time in which we have to deal with, again, these really overwhelming crises, on the one hand, it's a bummer. But on the other hand, it does present us with this massive, and I maintain, hopeful and optimistic point, juncture in time, where again, precisely because the crises are interlocking, precisely because they seem so overwhelming, right, and precisely because they are so degrading, right, and so destructive, it gives us the opportunity to make substantive and positive changes, even if only on the local level, even if only to start, or even if only for your own, or your family's own, or whoever, state of health, right? Mental health, physical health, whatever it happens to be. So I will end there in that place and leave you with the idea of thinking about what's your place in your place. All right, thank you.